Welcome back to MJL 3764 Collecting Elvis. Today I thought we'd do another CD video. The last video I made was on the double features series of CDs, so I thought we'd stick with the trend and do another CD series. This one's called Essential Elvis, and there was 6 CDs in this series, running from the years 1987 right up to the year 2000. So let's take a quick look at the individual CDs and then we'll delve a bit deeper. So the first one, Essential Elvis, came out in 1987, looking like that. Now most of these had a subtitle to them. This first one was just called Essential Elvis or Essential Elvis Presley. I believe in the US this was called The First Movies. Next one up, this was issued in 1989, Essential Elvis Volume 2, and this was called Stereo 57. Next one up, 1990, Essential Elvis Volume 3, Hits Like Never Before. Volume 4, this was subtitled 100 Years From Now. This came out in 1996. Volume 5 came out in 1998. And this one was subtitled Rhythm and Country. And the final Essential Elvis release, Volume 6, was subtitled Such a Night. So they were the 6 releases. Now some people say that these releases were a follow-on from the Legendary Performer series of releases. I'm sure fans know them, that ran from 1974 to 1983. 4 releases on record. There was no CDs then, but I don't really see that. I think the Legendary Performer series were spread all over the place for collectors, whereas these CDs are sort of focusing on a particular point in Elvis's career, whereas the Legendary Performers was all over the shop really. But a very good release, I thought, the Legendary Performer series, but I don't think this is the afterthought of that. It certainly is the forerunner to the FTD releases. So yeah, I mean the last one here, Such a Night, was issued in 2000. The first FTD was actually issued in 1999, so this series was still going when the FTD was brought in, but it ended shortly afterwards, so I'm sure FTD took over from this. Great releases. Again, I can't mention this enough, I mentioned it on the last video. If you were there at the time and you were buying these releases, they were essential. You know, you looked forward to every release. You couldn't wait for the next volume to come out. But of course FTD have dwarfed these now, so if you bought the FTDs first and you're backtracking on these, you may be a tad disappointed. But believe you me, if you were there at the time, you would have been over the moon with these releases. Unreleased stuff we'd never had before. It sounded in pretty good quality as well. Some really good releases. Only 6, but very good. There was a big lull between this one in 1990 and this one in 1996, Volume 3 and Volume 4. I remember some fans saying at the time, well, the reason that they're not going to issue any more Essential Elvis is because you've had the 50s and there is no more Essential Elvis left. Believe it or not, these are the idiots that we have to put up with. Of course there's a lot more Essential left, but as I say, you have to put up with these people. I remember in the 80s, again I don't want to offend anyone, but in the 80s I remember saying to people that Elvis is blessed with some of the best, most loyal, respectful, hard-working, hardcore fans in the world. Unfortunately, he's also cursed with some of the biggest cretins I've ever had the misfortune of meeting in my life. But that's a story for another day. So let's get on and take a closer look at the first one, Essential Elvis. The Essential Elvis CD has 27 tracks and runs for 57 minutes. And it looks like that. The Elvis sticker I used to put on back in the day. CD looks like that. I'll take the booklet out in a second. And the track listing on the back there. So as said before, these are the first 3 movies, tracks from the first 3 movies. All the Love Me Tender stuff has been previously released, that's the masters, apart from Love Me Tender at the end there, which is the end title version, which if you've seen the film, it's just that last little extra verse that he does as the family are walking away back to the house. So, and that was taken from the film, I believe. So it's not in the best of quality, but that's the only unreleased item you've got from Love Me Tender. From Loving You, you've got quite a few alternatives. Slow and fast version of Loving You. You've also got all the other masters from the Loving You film, except Loving You. The master of this is not on here, but there is plenty of alternate takes, fast and slow. You've got a nice alternative. I've got a lot of living to do. Bit scratchy, but very good. And of course you've got Party with the alternative lyrics. That was nice to have. But the real bonus for me, and again for the time, we didn't have an unreleased version of Jailhouse Rock. And for the first time we got one on here. Take 5, I believe it is. So that was really nice to have at the time. There is a big guitar mistake at the end of the solo, but still very good performance. You've got some of the film versions of Treat Me Nice and Young and Beautiful on here as well. You've also got the original versions of I Want to Be Free and Baby I Don't Care. I think you get an extra couple of count-ins on them. But they are the masters, as well as having a few alternatives as well. So a very good release. Let's take a look at the booklet. And here's the booklet with information about the film. It's not a very big booklet, this one. And that's about it, with the information on the back there. Now, as this was a CD, this did feature 27 tracks. The LP version only featured 23. So I did go through this on an earlier video. I think it was called Elvis, the Death of Vinyl. So I won't go through it now, but very quickly, yeah, we were being forced to buy the CDs because some of the bonus tracks on this CD were unreleased. So to get all the material, you had to buy the CD and the LP. But as I said in the previous video, there's the CD and there's the album, and with the gatefold, so all day long then, and probably now, it was records for me. That was in a nice retro label. So it was nice to get them both, but a bit expensive maybe. But obviously CDs was the way things were going. Let's look at volume 2. Essential Elvis 2 was issued in 1989. Features 20 tracks on the CD and runs for 60 minutes. That looks like that, stereo 57 of vinyl. Sticker on there for Artists of the Century. And this is a picture disc CD. Like that. And this features 15 unreleased performances of 8 songs. I remember at the time this was a little bit criticised, this one, because it didn't feature a lot of hits. The only sort of biggie on here is I Beg of You, which was the B-side of Don't, and was on the Golden Records Volume 2. Other tracks are not big hits, but I thought it was a great release at the time to hear Elvis struggling with Is It So Strange. And early versions of I Beg of You sounded a lot different from the released master. So yeah, I thought this was a great release at the time. You're getting 4 versions of I Beg of You, 4 versions of Have I Told You Lately That I Love You, 3 versions of Is It So Strange, It Is No Secret, and Peace in the Valley, and That's When Your Heartaches Begin, and 2 versions of Blueberry Hill. You also got a really nice sounding Mean Woman Blues. It's the master vocal, but it sounds really good on here. I should have said actually it is featured on this CD as well, the track Mean Woman Blues. You've also got the alternate film version, which we first had on, I believe, This Is Elvis in 1981. So Mean Woman Blues is featured on Volume 2 also. But yeah, good release. This had 5 bonus songs. These are all the masters, mono masters on the end. I Believe, Tell Me Why, Got a Lot of Living to Do, All Shook Up, and Take My Hand, Precious Lord. They're all the released versions tagged onto the end. So if you wanted to buy the album, you were lucky enough to get all the 15 unreleased tracks. So that was a good way to go for me. But I still picked up the CD anyway. But quick look at this, as we've shown this on the vinyl release, and this is a CD video really. Again, excellently done. Great release for its day. Essential Elvis Volume 2. Essential Elvis Volume 3 now. This was issued in 1990. And it's a 24 track CD and runs for nearly 50 minutes. CD looks like that. And again features many unreleased takes. This was the last of the LPs for the Essential collection. The next 3 releases were CD only. So a quick look at the gatefold. Yeah, good releases these were at the time. And the back, some information. Only 20 tracks on this, so you've got 4 extra on the CD. Before we do take a look at the tracks on the CD, I think as we're running short of time, we'll have to make this a 2-parter. So we'll continue this very shortly. So until the next time, just remember, while there's music, life's no waste.